All right, we're back. Students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. Chapter 10, Drill Problems, the Odd Number Problems. And we stopped on problem 10-9. So let's pick up with 10-11. All right, it says solve for the missing item in the following and round to the nearest hundredth as needed. Okay. So remember I had said in the theory videos we have interest is equal to principal times rate times time, right? A very easy formula for you to remember, right? And the way to, if you remember that formula, then it became relatively easy to figure out any of the other formulas to figure out if you wanted to find principal or you wanted to find rate or you wanted to find time. In this particular case, we want to find the principal. And the way I had said to do that was, we want to find principal, so we set that equal to, and we put the interest in the numerator, and then what we have left, in this case here, was the rate and time in the denominator, and we multiply that, multiply those two together. And that's how we know the formula for principal without having to memorize it, okay? So to calculate this out, the interest rate is 7%, and our rate, our interest, got that wrong. Our interest is $200, right? That's our interest, simple interest of 200. Our rate is 7% or 0.07, and we multiply that time by our time, which is 18 months, right? But we put that over 12 because we want to keep it in an annual time frame, since our interest rate is 7% and our simple interest is 12%. Those are annual. So even though this here is a year and a half, which is 18 months, okay, we put it as 18 over 12. And so now it's just a matter of doing the math. So let me erase this out here and rewrite that. Okay. And just quickly go back over it. Here is our formula that we had to remember. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And in order to solve for anything other than interest, right, if we don't know it, well, we want, in this case, we want to solve for principal. So we set that to interest always is in the numerator. And then what we have left is in the denominator, rate times time. Well, in this case here, our interest is $200. And our rate is 7%, so 0.07, and that's times our time. 1.5 years is 18 months, okay? So I can make that 18 months over 12 to keep it annually. Okay, and as I said, to keep that annually. However, you might be wondering to yourself, why am I converting this to 18 over 12 to keep it annually, since we already know this is 1.5? I mean, why can't I just do it as this? I have $200 as my simple interest. Since I have annual of 0.7 for a rate, why don't I just multiply that by 1.5 for the 1.5 years? To be honest with you, yes, you can. You can do the same exact thing. And calculate the formula out that way. But the reason why I actually went through showing you this here and putting it 18 over 12 was because I'm trying to stress the fact that you want to keep everything within the same time frame. All right. Now, personally, I would have done it this way. Okay. I would have just went and said, okay, 1.5 years, since I know everything is yearly, I would have multiplied by the 1.5. Okay. But when I first started this problem, remember, I'm doing this off the cuff. I'm doing this as to what's going on in my head. And when I had started working the problem, this is how I thought about this problem, but I did this problem knowing, I thought about it this way, knowing that I'm keeping everything in the same time frame. But then I thought to myself, well, I want to also make sure that everybody gets this idea of keeping things in the same time frame, especially when you're going to need more practice in, making sure things stay in the same time frame. And that's why I went and said, okay, 1.5 years, I'm converting that to 18 months, and I'm putting it over the 12 to represent 12 months in a year in order to keep that, in a yearly time frame or annual time frame, right? Because that's just a little bit of practice that you're going to have to do in, towards other problems in the future, okay? Keep that step in mind. I mean, when you're in the previous problems where we had ordinary interest of 360 or exact of 365, what did you do? You had to put that in the denominator, okay? Well, that's all I'm doing here is I'm making a denominator because why? I'm trying to keep things in the same pattern, the same, doing the same thing again and again and again. But like I had said, me personally, when I first saw this, thought about this, I went 200 over 0.07, and then I knew that this 1.5 is yearly, so I would use the 1.5, okay? Especially since it makes doing the math a lot easier. I mean, think about it. 0.07 times 1.5 is 200 over 0.105, and then I can divide the 200 by the 0.105, and I end up with the answer of $1,904.76. $1,904.76 is my answer. But if I went and tried to do the math this way, I'm going to have a few extra steps. Why? Well, remember, I'm putting that over 1, and now this is $200 is in my numerator. And in my denominator, I have to take care of everything that's in my denominator first. So I would take the 0.07 times 18, which would give me 1.26. And that is over 1 times 12, or 12. So this is still in the denominator, and I still have to take care of this math. So I have to take 1.26 and divide that by 12, which would then give me the $200 over 0.105, which is what we had from before, okay? And when you divide that, you still end up with $1,904.76, okay? All right, so I hope you got that. Let me just quickly go back over the numbers as a review. So principal was equal to interest over rate times time, which is equal to 200 over 0.07. And I could have done it like this times 1.5 years because I know these are annual. And that would have given me 200 over 0.105. And that would equal $1,904.76, which is our answer. Or I could have done it like this, 200. Actually, let me erase that and use a different color. So I have 200, and that would have been over 0.07 times 18 months over 12 months, okay, which would have equaled to 200 over 0.07 times 1.26, okay, because when I divide 18 by 12, oops, I end up with 1.5, sorry about that. Or I could have gone and, let me get a different color here, I could have went and said, instead of doing this, I could have multiplied the 0.07 by 18 and ended up with 1.26 over 12. 0.07 times 18, 0.07 times 18, and then divided that by 12, which would have given me, so that would have ended up being like this, 200 over 126 divided by 12. Now, when I did the division there, I would have ended up with the same 200 over 0.105. So as you can see, there's like 3 different ways I did this depending upon how you're doing the math. Okay. But I would have done it the very, very simple way like this first. I showed you this because, again, in the future, we're going to be running across that more and more and more. Okay. Now, it says, and I'm at 10 minutes, 11 minutes. All right, I'm going to stop. Sorry that that last problem took so long to do, but as you can see, the twists and turns in that gave me different options here. So I'm going to stop and do problem 13 in the next video.